All right, you're good to go, bud.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Occult Rejects with your hosts Lux.
And the NY Patriot.
And today we decided to jump on. We've been trying to upload some episodes that are a bit shorter. That just have some really cool information about stuff we see going on, or like just small tidbits about the occult that are just maybe a little bit easier to digest instead of watching or listening to like a 3 hour thing. So give us feedback if you like what we're doing with this. Please leave in the comments if you dig this type of style of uh, of the occult rejects. So
It's also
today,
a good way just to bring up topics for people to like kind of like if they didn't know about for them to even look into on their own. That's how I look at it as well. Like if this interests you, this might give you something to go dig into for yourself.
yeah, and
We
trying to
didn't
do it.
study everything. We just brought up the topic.
Yeah, and trying to cover, especially when it comes to the world event stuff, because it does help. It helps people to see what's going on in real time in real world events that are affecting them and that they see all around them. So instead of covering something from like 20 years ago, well, there's a lot of value in that, but covering stuff right now is helpful as
Mhm.
well. So,
Very well said.
but today we got a doozy.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, let's make our disclaimers first, too.
Sure, yeah.
Well, first off, I'm just gonna say for me and Lux, I can say that this topic will be on a battalion in Ukraine, but that does not mean that we're picking a side of we thinking Russia's the good guys and Ukraine's the bad guys. This just happened to be something that caught our eye, and it happens to be associated with Ukraine. I'm sure the same shit's on the other side, and we just didn't happen to see that right away. But not picking a side, this just happens to be what we saw.
Yeah, and we did cover in one of the other podcasts about the different flags,
Yes.
right? And stuff that we saw in the Russian flag and in the Ukrainian flag as well. But the point is that, there is a occultism being used right now on both sides. And in order for us to kind of figure out the bigger plan with this whole thing, breaking down that occult symbolism helps to see the end goal, right? Because these talismans, these sigils, these symbols have meaning, and breaking down that meaning will tell you a little bit of an insider scoop to the plan and what's going on next. So, like New York Patriot said, we're not picking a side. We're not talking about all of Ukraine. We're not talking about that this being, a blanket statement. We're focused on one specific battalion of of you know in this military that's using occult symbolism. So before people get angry in the comments, just take that pill, let it settle for a bit, and
Yeah,
just chill.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was even posting like little drops, I think, on like Instagram or whatever, and like some people were assuming I was choosing Russia's side, and I was like, "Oh, come
Yeah,
on!"
and that's
Like
what
that's not the point of this. Is
dude, and that's the fucking thing, man, is that when people are viewing it from that side, it's totally against what we try and the message of the occult rejects is keep an open mind to everything at once, where just because we say a one statement doesn't mean that we're agreeing with something totally else we didn't even mention.
yeah, yeah.
So
Good point. Thank you. Yeah, we'll get that out of the way first. Now we
right.
can get into it.
Yeah, I mean the situation's fucked and it's fucked on both sides, and in my opinion it's been orchestrated like that on purpose, and these symbols break it down. So we just not long ago we ended up finding out that there was this group, this battalion, and we decided to research it here. And I guess it's pronounced. You said Azov,
I guess
Azov.
so.
Yeah,
Azov? I have no idea. That's how it looks like it should be said. I don't know. Azov. Yeah, but then yeah, they even have it spelled here A3OB. So
right.
yeah,
And it's in Ukrainian too, so who fucking knows how it's pronounced?
that's true. Yeah, and then I think depending on like if you want to say it in English, I think it's Azov, like with the B at the end instead of the V, but whatever. This is the correct one.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I guess I'll go into the history about it. We'll cover that in the beginning, which I think is a little interesting. I mean, some of their own stuff. They even just come out and exactly say they come out and exactly say what they're about. Kind of. They do even have their own website, and they do even have their own YouTube with their own like stuff in Ukrainian. So, but I mean, they don't hide who they are or what they're thinking either. So I'm just gonna put that out there. I mean, you could easily go find stuff on these people, and they have no problem saying what they do, which is pretty ballsy.
Yeah.
But it's the Azov Battalion, or simply Azov, is a right wing extremist neo Nazi, formerly paramilitary unit of the National Guard of Ukraine, based in Mariupol in the Azov Sea coastal region. Azov initially formed as a volunteer militia in May 2014 and has since been fighting Russian separatist forces in the Donbas War, if I'm even saying that right. It saw its first combat experience recapturing Mariupol from pro-Russian separatists in June 2014. On 12th of November 2014, Azov was incorporated into the National Guard of Ukraine, and since then, all members have been official soldiers serving in the National Guard. In 2015 and 16, the regiment gained attention after allegations of torture and war crimes, as well as neo-Nazi sympathies and usage of associated symbols by the regiment, as seen as their logo, featuring the wolf's angle, one of the Nazi symbols used by the 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich. All right, so that logo right there, I think what you're seeing, I'll eventually be showing you, kind of does come off of a Nazi symbol that was used, like they're just saying.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to point out about this, because I know people will say, "Oh, we're using Wikipedia. That's mainstream media or whatever." Yeah, that's definitely true, and we can point out inconsistencies in this, but the reason why we're using Wikipedia and stuff is for time's sake. We're not going to go, research some crazy independent source for like 30 hours for this type of stuff. It's right off the top of our dome, but
Well, I'll tell you, anything that I found, you will find multiple websites on. If you want to go and look up the topics and the people that I mentioned, you will actually find multiple websites with almost the same thing. I just went
exactly.
with Wikipedia, honestly, because it looks cleaner, neater.
Exactly, dude.
That's it.
Exactly. And also, like you said, if we're showing you this information, we've double, triple checked it to make sure. The
Yeah.
only thing I would point out here is that when they're talking about far right, and then they're trying to say that this group is far right. Also, if they're Nazis, right? If they're Nazi sympathizers, Nazis were not right wing. They were socialists. They were communists. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they kind of get it twisted there in that part, but
Yeah. Azov representatives and said the symbol is an abbreviation for the slogan "National Idea," and deny any connection with Nazis. In March 2015, a spokesman for the regiment said around 10 to 20% of the unit were neo-Nazis. A provision in Consolidated Appropriations Act 2018, passed by the United States Congress, blocked military aid to Azov on the grounds of its white supremacist ideology. In 2015, a similar ban on aid to the group has been overturned by Congress. Members of the regiment come from 22 countries and are various backgrounds. So I guess they do get aid back now again. In 2016, veterans of the regiment and members of non-governmental organization called the Azov Civil Corps created the political party National Corps. In 2017, the size of the regiment was estimated at more than 2,500 members. The unit's first commander was far-right nationalist Andriy Beletsky, who led the neo-Nazi organizations Socialist National Assembly and Patriot of Ukraine. I think you had all these fucking. It's funny how they worked Patriot into that.
mm-hmm.
In its early days, Azov was a special police company of the Ministry of Internal Affairs, led by Vladimir Spara, the leader of the, I can't even say these fucking names, branch of Patriot of Ukraine and Right Sector, which, I forgot that was even in there. I did even mention to Lux that Right Sector which we're not covering, is another one that if you look them up, they're pretty much an outspoken, same ideology as this one. We're just not covering them. The Azov Battalion has its roots in the groups of Ultras of FS medalists. Now remember that because I'm going to go back to that. The Azov Battalion has its roots in a group of ultras of FFC medalists named Section 82. Section 82 was allied with the FC Spartak Moscow Ultras. Late February 2014, during the 2014 Ukrainian crisis, when a separatist movement was active in Kharkiv, Section 82 occupied the Kharkiv Oblast Regional Administration Building in Kharkiv and served as a local self-defense force. Soon after, a company of the Special Task Patrol Police called Eastern Corps was formed on the basis of Sect 82. That probably sounds like really weird, but basically what I'm going to show is like things like they got people from this thing called the Ultras, and I'm going to show that they even get people from two different football teams. This is even how they recruit some of the people for this shit. Going back to the Wolf's angle, I'm kind of told you something and I'm going backwards now, but here is the Wolf angles, or however you say a Wolf's angle. Very much the same design that I was showing you before. Here's some of the heralds from Wolf Angles appears in the 1714 Heraldic Handbook. Wapenkunst. But I mean, it's obviously there's occult symbolism to this. It's old shit. I wasn't spending too much time on it, but I was just wanted to show how. There you go. There's a symbol for the 19th Panzer Division. Nazi symbol.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely was used. Now, the Football Club Medalist Kharkiv is a Ukrainian football club based in Kharkiv that plays in the Ukraine First League during 2021 and 2022 season. It was revived 5 years after original FC Medalist Kharkiv ceased operations. So this is a football club. I mean, and they even have their own little seal right here, which, I mean, it has the fucking, what is that? Why can't I remember the name of that? The thing that Toth carries.
Oh, the trident?
Yeah, well, no, there's what the fuck is the name for that? God, I can't believe it. It has like the DNA. You see the two,
the helix?
Yeah, whatever that is. Yeah, there's a specific name for it. Fuck. But yeah, the double helix or whatever they call it. Yeah. I mean, even it's got that on there. It's got, I mean, to me, I'm sure there's stuff that means stuff on there. So they get from there, and then they even mention FC Spartak Moscow is a Russian professional football club based in Moscow, having won 12 Soviet championships. So for some reason, they grab people from these fucking football places. I mentioned before that they have a Special Task Patrol Police. The Special Task Patrol Police of Ukraine is the volunteer corps of law enforcement unions, part of the Ministry of Internal Affairs. It was originally created for prevention of criminal encroachment in defense of civil order on the 15th of April 2014, following the Russian invasion to Ukraine. They basically started this up, they say, because of Russia. Now, this is what I thought when I mentioned the Ultras before. I think this is really fucking interesting that they recruit people from this, because this makes me think of like propaganda in the streets or shit stirring. Ultras are a type of association football fans who are renowned for their fanatical support. The term originated in Italy. How funny, back to Italy. Mm-hmm. But is used worldwide to describe predominantly organized fans of association football teams. The behavioral tendency of Ultras groups includes their use of flares, vocal support in large groups, and displaying banners at football stadiums, all of which are designed to create an atmosphere which encourages their own team and intimidates the opposing players and their supporters. The frequent use of elaborate displays in stadiums is also common. So, like, Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, if you're recruiting people like that too, like, are you even like some of the protests? Is that what you're just seeing? Like, is there shit being sparked and done? Who the fuck knows? I just
Yeah,
found that very weird.
and especially because okay, so they've got roots in Moscow, right, which would be Russia, not Ukraine, which is weird. But then you also have they're using this symbol, the wolf single, but if you go back a couple slides, you don't have to do it, but there's a lot of symbolism of the Z, like constant symbolism of the letter Z. And if you look at what's going on with these Russian tanks and hardware equipment, what do they have written on them? The big giant Z. So there's some weird occult connections that are going on here. So just wanted
Yeah.
to point that out real quick.
What I have here, they actually have, like I said before, they have their own fucking website. I translated this. The School of Sergeants is named after Yevhen Konovalets, 1891 to 1938, a Ukrainian military and political figure who dedicated his life to the struggle for the Ukrainian state at a difficult time, when the vast majority of Ukrainian politicians and the military despaired of the struggle. Following his example, the Azov regiment took responsibility and initiative to reform the army during the crisis without waiting for instructions and directives from above. I know it's kind of ballsy just even coming out and saying that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there was a guy, Stefan Smok Fedak, who I think was the father of Yevhen Konovelets. That right now I'm talking about the father of his wife. This guy was also known as the Dragon. Stepan Smoke Fedak. Yeah, it was known as the Dragon. Also was a Ukrainian independence activist who on September 25th, 1921, attempted to assassinate Poland's chief of state, Marshal Josef. Fuck, I can't even read that. Pilsud, whatever his name is. I mean, this guy was also in the Austro-Hungary Military Academy.
No, that's crazy about the dragon too. Remember that's come up before
Mm-hmm.
when we're looking at the flags, the slaying of the dragon.
Yeah. The assassination plot, the attack. So, I mean, I'm not reading it off, but it is there. You can see it. The aftermath, the government was treated by physicians and went home, while that other guy is proceeded to Lowell's Great Theater, where he received an ovation from the gathered public. I don't know if the guy, I don't know what happened. Let's see. All right. Yeah. I don't know. I'll have to edit that out. I don't know what happened if the guy got caught or not, but the governor was fine. He didn't die. Here are some pictures that I grabbed. I'll probably just show these at the end. I'll skip all this. I'll edit that out. All right. So then I was going to now cover that guy who they said that started Azov, Evan Konovalets, who for 17 years, led the Ukrainian Revolutionary Liberation Movement. Appeared on the political stage in 1917. Ukraine, divided between the Austro-Hungarian and Russian empires, was in the third year of the war. Millions of Ukrainians served in the Austrian and Russian armies. At the outbreak of the First World War, Evan Konovalets, born 1891, was called up and fought as a lieutenant of the Austrian army in the front line against the Russians. In April 1915, he was taken prisoner by the Russians at the time of the outbreak of the March Revolution of 1917, started off by the Volhynian Regiment. And after the overthrow of the Tsar, this guy was a prisoner of war that whole time. Eventually, he got out, and he basically eventually started this whole Azov thing. After the first news of the revolution and some months before the restoration of the independent Ukrainian state, Konovalets fled from the prisoner of war camp on the Volga and eventually reached Kyiv, Kyiv, where he entered into the service of a newly created independent state. Um, some more stuff about him. Uh, after the failure of the Ukrainian struggle for liberation, Colonel Konovelets and his Sikh riflemen were interned by the Poles. In the spring of 1920, he succeeded in it. Oh, that's right. I already read all that shit. My bad, dude. Take this out. A lot of this stuff is probably shit I didn't even need. Sorry, dude.
It's all good.
Yeah. I think I'll probably just leave it with like that for him. Because it really, there's a bunch of bullshit after that, but that's all it really was. I just wanted to mention that it did come from that guy who was in the camp and shit. But
Yeah.
um, fuck, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't read it. I'm sorry, dude. I don't know why I just fucking had a brain fart with all this crap. I don't think I realized how much shit I had on this fucking guy. That's probably useless, or just will drag on.
I mean, I think he's got, and I'll point this out when it gets to like my shit, dude. But I think this guy's probably some type of intelligence agency asset or
Yeah, I
something.
don't know if I should read all this shit or not because this might take a long time. That's why I was like, fuck, I didn't realize how much I had on it.
Mm.
And like, I'm trying to see if there's something I could just pull out that's really more important than the rest.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck. All right, I'll read some of this right here. Colonel Konovelets, the commanding officer of the UVO, had returned to Western Ukraine from abroad in June 1921 in order to take direct charge of the leadership and planning of UVO activities. For political and conspiratorial reasons, he left the country again in the autumn and went into exile in the West, from where he continued to direct UVO activities. As supreme commander and representative of the UVO, and thus the leader of the Ukraine liberation struggle after the assassination of Poltera, Colonel Kobanelets showed himself as an alert, energetic, and versatile man of action. The organization, like the UVO, had, of course, to provide the proper administrative and military training of its cadres. Colonel Konovelets directed all his energy to this task and ensured that many Ukrainians at home as well as abroad received military instruction. Abroad, he not only supervised military training but took part in it. The trainees formed later on the nucleus of the Ukrainian Insurgent Army, UPA, which was to play a decisive role in the Second World War. This is just some stuff on this guy, and I'm sure Lux might even touch on him later on, but this guy was definitely like connected with people too, I think. On April 29th, in April of 1929, Konovelets set out a 4 months journey to the USA and Canada, where he visited the large centers of Ukrainian immigration. The results of his visits were a further activation of Ukrainian life and its inclusion in the common national front. So, I mean, this guy's like bounced around and been to different countries. And this is just showing his wife at the time was Olha Oksana Fedak. And then it shows you that is the daughter of Stephen Fedak. And that was kind of just showing you that, like, even her father, who knows if it had any influence with him or not, but I showed before that even her father was involved in the military as well.
Mm.
So who knows about that whole relationship? You never know.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I had for like a history and an intro just on the basics of Azov and kind of who founded it. And, their symbol, that at least that I showed off the bat, kind of comes from possible Nazi symbolism. And now we'll get into Lux's occult stuff.
Yeah. So one thing definitely wanted to touch on right off the bat with this whole situation is that, to me, I think that this Azov group, whatever, I think that they've probably been created on purpose. I don't think it's something organic. A lot of times that you'll see the CIA and other intelligence agencies, they'll do these coups where they'll do these, like they'll start a group in order for it to provoke another group, which will then cause some type of revolution or some type of change of regime or government. So, if you had to ask me my opinion on what's going on, I think that this whole situation is fabricated in a way to, unfortunately, it's affecting a lot of innocent people in Ukraine, and people are getting killed and fucking famine and this terrible, terrible destruction of life and property in Ukraine. I think that's all very real, but I think that it's all very planned to kick something off much bigger. And it's fucking so sad that it has to affect innocent people who don't know about any of this stuff that we were even talking about. They're just regular people living their life. And,
No, you know what I was honestly thinking about, and since you're saying it, then I'll add to what you're saying. And I wasn't sure to bring it up because I didn't know how. At least you kind of understand it too, the way I'm looking at it. In my opinion, this is really no different than what was it 2 years ago when we had Antifa and BLM doing what they did here in the United States.
mm-hmm,
It's just they aren't as well trained and armed, but
mm-hmm,
it's still like, for my opinion, I'm starting to question, is that shit like, if you start reading and looking into like where all these military things are that are far extreme over there, they all kind of just rose up and said like, we're this is what we are now.
yep,
Like a lot of them just took it into their own hands and said, no, this is what we do.
mm-hmm,
Nobody ever, like, these people brought it upon themselves to create these things and to bring them into power. Like, where the
yep,
fuck is that coming? Like, that's only really, if you think about it, just a well-funded and trained version of Antifa and BLM, possibly.
yep.
Like what we're seeing over there with with people like this.
Exactly, and we know that the CIA works with these types of groups, right? I mean, think about Operation Fast and Furious, where the U.S. government was caught working with drug cartels in Mexico. Think about how when Obama slipped up and said that he was training ISIS forces. I mean, this is, they create these groups to create an enemy so that they can use them down the road as some type of puppet. And I was just going to bring up real quick about the like the background of some of this shit. I found somebody who aggregated a lot of information, but it says here, and I can provide the sources and the links here, but it says that, so who is really behind the Azov Battalion? How one Ukrainian billionaire funded Hunter Biden, President Vladimir Zelensky, and the Azov Battalion. The real person who was the benefactor of the boss of this deal was Vice President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden. At the time, he was the working for Ukrainian gas company Burisma Holdings, but Mykola Zolevsky was was part of the newly installed government, which the Obama administration itself had actually just installed in Ukraine, in what the head of the private CIA firm Stratford correctly called the most blatant coup in history. Shortly after the Obama administration's Ukrainian coup in 2014, Kolominsky was supported to Yakunov's overthrow, who was appointed the governor of this crazy town in Ukraine I can't pronounce. And Hunter Biden, with no experience in the industry or region, he would join Burisma Holdings 2 months later in 2014. A 2012 study of Burisma Holdings done in Ukraine by the Anti-Corruption Action Group, an investigative nonprofit co-funded by American billionaire George Soros and the U.S. State Department, found that the true owner of Burisma Holdings was none other than Ukrainian billionaire oligarch Igor Kolominsky. So it just gives you a little bit of the background here of how, again, like we've said, these things are funded by governments on the low. These, psychopaths that run all this stuff, they create these situations so that they can, you know, fucking probably start another big war, World War III or something, fund
Mhm.
both sides like they have before. Like it's disgusting, but I have a feeling that's what's going on here.
Yo, you know what they showed on the news yesterday here? I don't know if it was like, I don't know if this was just a New York thing, because again, it might have just been the local news. They even showed how like somebody, I think over in Ukraine, when they were doing like it was like somebody reporting there, somebody like jumped up behind them with a fucking sign saying this is all bullshit. This isn't real.
Oh, that was the Russian reporter.
And they just, yeah, they showed that shit on TV, and I was like, I can't believe they actually showed that.
She
Like on
is
mainstream
about to go
news.
to jail. She's about to go to jail. It was a reporter on Russian news who had jumped up in the background with a sign saying that she didn't want war or something, and they
Or
ended
said
up
it was like
arresting
there
her.
really wasn't going on, like their TV's reporting some shit like that
They
too.
were saying, yeah, she was saying that what the news was reporting was totally false, totally fake. Here, I'll share my screen with you real quick.
Yes, sir. Yes. Oh, I think you're gonna have to open up the picture now, right?
Yeah, I think you're right.
And then you have to leave the picture open. You can't fucking minimize it, or it doesn't show up.
Yeah.
I did that to myself earlier when I was setting up. I was like, where did it go? I was like, that's right, I minimized. Like, fuck. It just blows my mind. I minimize it so it disappears.
I know, right?
Beautiful.
So here you can see the symbols side by side, similar to what New York Patriot had showed earlier. However, if you look at the background of this logo for Azov, you can see that there is the black sun, which is that's an occult symbol, and wanted to break down its meaning for people so that kind of get the idea of the two sides that are warring, what the occult symbolism means about those two sides. So yeah, you actually already read this. Just wanted to include some pictures to show that this is a symbol that's being used on soldiers that are a part of this group. But what's up?
Yeah, that's crazy. Oh, you think they're sisters? I
I
think they were
don't
they're
know.
related, right? What if they're twins?
I have no. They look very similar, but
Yeah.
Jesus, the patch right here. Of course, you can see on the center the black sun, and there's a lot of weird stuff that's going on with this symbol here as well. I'm not going to go too far into it, but it is a trident. This is more proof to show you that this is being seen on Azov Battalion. This isn't just something that we're making up. You can see it right here. Because I was even wondering, I was like, okay, well, maybe all this is propaganda, right? Like maybe this isn't even real, like this group doesn't even exist. But they definitely have gone down the road now that they exist and that they're probably puppeted by a group much higher than themselves. So I also found this really weird. I noticed that there were a bunch of these tweets that were talking about putting up these cool Ukrainian stickers on gas pumps so everyone will feel a little bit better about paying $5 a gallon to support Ukraine. Huh. So now I've seen a bunch of these tweets where they're
Wow.
trying to promote people to buy the stickers so that you can also participate in the occult meaning behind this larger event.
That is fucking wild.
And people will buy these and they'll have no idea what it means. They just want to be sympathetic, and it's, you know, it's mind control. It's a fucking
That's wild.
psyop. So when you look at the black sun, this breaks down a bit of the meaning behind the design of the spokes. The German sun wheel commonly do have bent spokes. For Himmler, the bent nature, Himmler was, of course, one of the top guys in the Nazi Party. Himmler, the bent nature was likely important because each spoke represented the Germanic Swolio ruin of the elder Fuchsark, which represented the sun. Himmler adopted a modern rune system, which called the symbol Sig and had it represent victory. So this symbol is supposed to represent victory. His most known use of the Sig rune is the insignia of the SS, which uses a double Sig rune. The pattern created by the crooked radiating spokes might be interpreted as 3 overlaid swastikas. The interpretation
Oh.
has led some neo-Nazis to adopt the symbol, particularly in places where the display of swastikas are illegal. Others have advanced a comparison to the 12 Knights of the Round Table. Himmler was a great fan of mythology and folklore, and 2 of the reading rooms within the castle were named Konog Artus and Graal. As head of the SS, Himmler would potentially have used such imagery in organizing the SS into 12 branches. The number 12 has relevance within Norse mythology. There are 12 Aesir gods. For example, important groups of 12 can be found in other cultures as well, such as the 12 Olympic gods in Greek mythology and the 12 disciples of Christ. When they're mentioning this castle here, they're talking about the, what was it? Do you remember the name of that castle?
No. You talking
What?
about Himmler's castle? Or?
Yeah,
No, I
yeah.
forgot the name of it. Yeah, but he did have one.
Right, and if you look at this, Himmler was huge into the occult.
Oh, for sure.
He had a
Yeah.
giant black sun at the floor of one of these.
Yep. He had like a thing, I think, with stuff burning for like people that have died in the past too. That like stayed lit all the time. Like a
Yeah,
big
it was
circular
the
thing in a black sun. I think it was on the floor, like you said, like in the middle.
yeah, it was the endless flame. It was supposed to burn forever, and yeah, I mean, as soon as you walk into that castle, which Himmler was supposed to destroy, but he didn't do it because unfortunately he had a saboteur among them, and actually decided to not follow through on the instructions of Himmler to destroy the castle. So it still stands today, and you can look in occultism. People have even tried to go there to perform modern day rituals in the same place where Himmler would perform his.
Oh,
So
wow.
the Black Sun, it goes pretty deep into the deep occulted meaning of, like, this goes much further into occultism than it just meaning victory, like a symbol for victory. And it goes back to Carl Jung and sort of what we've talked about before in the Scarlet Horse series of exiting the matrix, being able to traverse different dimensions. So that's also part of the Black Sun symbolism. If you want, we can probably actually pause here before I go into this shit, because we got, what's her name, in what, 15 minutes?
Oh, I told her we were going to be late.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I assumed that. Yeah, I told her we might be like 15 minutes late.
Yeah. So let's take a look at the Black Sun. Well, this is part of this symbolism does go back to black holes, simulation theory, like we talked about with Scarlet Horror. And so the Black Sun is sort of represented in cosmology here the same way. Black circle with a radiating spokes around it. So what's going on here? What are hold on one second. Oh, so it's talking about particular ring formation around these different black holes because it's lessening gravity around it. So that's sort of a scientific explanation for why it's using the black hole. The Black Sun also refers to the Stalingrad, the German sun wheel. It is a symbol of esoteric or occult significance. Its design is based on sun wheel incorporated on the floor of Wetzelberg Castle. That's what we were just talking about. So, the Black Sun and alchemy. In alchemic and Hermetic traditions, suns are employed to symbolize a variety of concepts, much like the sun in astrology. Suns can correspond to gold, citronous, generative masculine principles, imagery of the king or Apollo, the fiery spirit, or sulfur, the divine spark in man, nobility or incorruptibility. Reoccurring images of specific sun motives can be found in the form of a dark or black sun as a green lion devouring a sun. Sol Niger, the black sun, can refer to the first stage of alchemical magnum opus. And then the blackening, I'm not going to say that word, just the blackening, in a text ascribed to Marsilio Fiesno, 3 suns are described black, white, and red, corresponding to the 3 most used alchemical color stages. The black sun is used to illuminate the dissolution of the body, blackening of matter, or putrefaction in splendored solace.
Yeah.
So this shit goes very deep. Now we're sort of in my wheelhouse a little bit here with the, connection to Hermeticism. So there is a persistent belief in alchemic and Hermetic traditions in the existence of 2 suns. One is of pure philosophical gold, coexisting the essential fire conjoined with the ether, and the apparent one of profane material gold. The dark consuming fire of the material sun leads it to be called the dark or black sun. According to the book of the Holy Trinity, after Adam's fall was tainted by original sin, man is made from the black sun's fire.
Yeah.
Also, it's like I said before, it's the first stage in the open magnus in alchemy, and the occult groups that also use this are the black sun rising on a pylon in the temple of Set.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Now, funny how this comes back up, right? It turns out the black sun is also represented in Mesoamerican mythology, and it has many mystical meanings. Among them, it is connected to the god Quetzalcoatl and his penetration into the underworld through the west door after his dismal passage on the sky. For the Mexicans, there were 2 suns, the young day sun and the ancient sun, the dark sun. Some scholars regard the mythological black sun as the ancient female origin of all. It is both womb and tomb. This way, it is the oneness that uniformly integrates unawareness, death, and the expectation of fecundity. The Aztecs associated the passage of the black sun on its nightly journey through the underworld with the image of a butterfly. The butterfly, in turn, is an alchemical or an archetypal symbol of the transcendent soul, the transformation, and the mystical rebirth, also seen in the figure of frightening earth goddess Izicapatl, which is the obsidian butterfly that devoured people during solar eclipses. While the Aztecs' underworld was eternally dwelling place of souls. According to the Codex Rius, the underworld was made up of 9 layers. The first layers were the Earth's surface, which had the entrance or the face of a gigantic toad that devoured the dead and gave access to 8 lower levels, the spheres, right? The souls of the dead accompanied the 9th level, known as some crazy long-ass Aztec word that I cannot pronounce. Machilidium opacalocan. No clue. No clue.
You don't want to fuck that up like I would.
So, when we look at the Aztec calendar, now one thing that they focus on a lot in Aztec culture is 52. Now, if you look at this wheel that the Aztecs used, Okay, this is a swastika that is cut into 4 different sections, each arm representing a different cycle on this calendar. So it's just in, reverse the way that they have it here. If you were to spin it or flip it the other way, then it would be exactly a swastika. It's just in reverse here. And you see that also in a lot of Buddhist symbology.
Hmm.
The representation of the spinning wheel, or the swastika is a Buddhist symbol that dates back thousands of years, and oftentimes it's pictured in reverse, like it is here, instead of the way that we're used to seeing it with the Nazi stuff. So, the Aztecian calendar cycle of 52 uncorrected years represented in the form of a left rotating swastika. The wheel starts with the year 1, then turns left to 2, then 3, then 4, and 5. There is a good explanation of the whole composition in Durin and Seller. The question is, did the Hopi have real writing systems like the Aztecs? Because guess what? They were using the symbol too. it's, it's really crazy. So when we wrap it up as a whole, you can see that this black sun symbolism is going back to things that we've talked about so many times, from Quetzalcoatl to the passage through Bana
Yeah.
into the material or out of the material. Even touches on some of the stuff we spoke about on the last episode of Scarlet Whore, where we were
Hmm.
sort of hypothesizing that this symbol of Bana, or this sphere of Bana, is sort of the passageway to leaving the matrix, coming in and out. And the Aztecs and others believed the exact same thing. And it all ties into the Quetzalcoatl. Was really crazy to me. And I
Yeah,
wanted
that,
to,
that took me for a loop when you mentioned Quetzalcoatl. I was like, oh fuck.
yeah, and you think about the symbology of the Russian flag that we showed, where you have a rider on a horse and he's killing what? A green dragon.
Uh,
That's on the Russian flag. And now this group, Azov or whatever, is using a symbol directly tied to the green dragon, right? It's known in Hermeticism or alchemical practices. So the symbol goes way deeper than it just being for victory. And I see this is a war of two competing occult ideas. And I think that what this could be is that they're setting this up as a large war to, one, cause a lot of chaos, as they always do, but two, to determine who will be in charge in this new aeon or this new age. You know, what system will rule? Will there be a one world government, or what will that look like? Communism, fascism, and so when we see these huge world events, they're doing it as rituals. And when you break down these symbols, to me, that's what I believe that they're doing here. And probably not long, we'll jump in and things will get even crazier. But for those who are saying, well, this group Azov, like I've never heard of them. They, why should I even? It's some small group. Yes, but a small group can influence an entire agenda, especially when it's being funded by intelligence agencies and billionaires. And this group has got so much influence that they are being featured on Fox News. Because if you take a look here, this is live footage from Ukraine. And if you look here, it says Mariupol, Ukraine. Now this footage is taken by Azov Battalion via Storyful. So Fox News is even using the footage from this group. They're way more influential than I initially had thought. Because I sort of brought it up to you and I was like, whoa, this is kind of weird stuff. But researching this more, I got a feeling that they're the people that were put into this exact position to create this world event. Just one
That's
part
why
of
I
one.
even thought about with the ultras. I was like, look at that. That's shit stirs and people out in the streets and people getting shit going, choreographed, like choreographed crap, man.
Yep.
Well,
Yep. And when you look at the past of this group, Russia claims that they've been doing terrible, crimes against humanity for the last like 7 years or so in the Donbass region. And, two things can be true. That'll absolutely could be true. This group could be doing terrible things there. That's part of why Russia pretends to be pissed off at them. This is all a stage, and everyone's playing a different role. And you know, this is just I think another one of the actors that unfortunately will make things way worse, spark something much bigger, and obviously has deep occultism behind it, which is fueling the the ritual. So
Mhm. That's what I unfortunately think that if given the opportunity, this could turn into like another close to like a World War II, because I think that was a total pagan and occult war in itself. And I think if given a chance, this could end up something close to that possibly, because you see
yeah,
occultism behind again.
and I
And
think
I'm going to go back and I'm just going to say I don't know to what extent and to what was, but I will say I even think a lot of shit that we think we know about World War II is not correct, and a lot of it was propaganda, just like everything else is right now on TV.
yep, and the
When it comes
people
to
behind
COVID.
that were the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds. They were all funding both sides of the war. IBM was, on both sides of the war. It's always the same story. These countries are going to war, innocent people get affected. Meanwhile, the billionaires at the very top of it and people with vested interest in government end up orchestrating the events so that they can get richer and they don't care about human life. So that's the situation, in my opinion, that's going on here the exact same way. And they'll probably replicate the events of World War II in this war. And it's, again, I don't think it's organic. I think it's all orchestrated.
Mhm.
And just another, you notice how COVID just suddenly disappeared, right? People were getting sick of that. They needed a new distraction. Here it is. And
And I'm
it's
watching
just,
today has this shithead signs. He's in the last week has signed over $1 billion of aid to help Ukraine, but yet we got fucking gas is $5 or $6 a gallon. How about you just put that $1 billion back into fucking our country for something like that?
yeah. And I
I mean,
will,
what the fuck, man? Like we don't have our own fucking problems right now. You're giving $1 billion over to fucking another country.
yeah. And
You
I
got people out
will,
there who can't afford fucking gas or rent.
include I'm going to include this article here, this aggregation of information that's someone put together here, but it breaks down how much funding and money that we've given to Ukraine, who's really getting that money, and these are really big guys. I mean, we're talking about billions of dollars transferred to oligarchs, billionaires. It's fucking nuts. And this goes back a long time, and you can see this is a really great article because it follows everything that's happened over the last decade and how it's all of this is just a big fraud. And a lot of people have their hands in it, including the current president of the United States.
What are you looking for? What are you looking to load something up or no?
No, I think that's all I have because I'm not going to
Oh,
get.
okay. My bad. I thought you were showing something. My bad. Yeah,
No,
okay.
wait, can you see that?
That's a black screen. That's all I can say.
Okay. No, what I was gonna, I'm saying I'll include this. We can put it in the description because whoever put this together, they fucking nailed it. Like they've got every single transaction, these companies behind it all. I mean,
Oh, okay.
they really nailed it. So I want to include that as well because it's not the only one that the U.S. has funded. They've also funded three other groups. It looks like here that are also in Ukraine.
Wow. All right. So then I guess that wraps it up then. Fucking
Yep.
Azov. Definitely weird. If you didn't notice already at the beginning while we're doing the intro, there will be pictures at the top. I mean, there'll be pictures on the screen that I didn't include, but there, I got some flags and some, whatever, just showing the logos on different things and showing the symbolism. So there is that at the beginning as well, besides what we covered. I didn't want to take up too much time going over all of it, but there is plenty of things. They got badges, flags, all tons of that same fucking symbolism all over it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that if you missed it, you can go back and look at it if you want. Yeah, so that is the end of another Occult Rejects, I guess, a short little episode there. Hopefully, people got something out of that. You can dig into it yourself. I'm assuming this may not be the only one as well. There may be other ones that might have same influence going on. Maybe we just didn't cover it. So hopefully, this brought up a topic for people to look into.
Yeah.
I think there's probably a whole lot of like what Lux is saying. I think this thing has all been orchestrated and funded. I'm sure this isn't the only battalion.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So that's the end of this one. Anything to mention? Is there anything that we need to cover or mention to anybody? Think of anything new? I can't think. I don't know.
Not that I can think of.
I mean, check the torn more. That is our YouTube. Some of our stuff does go there. When I do lives, I will be on there, so you can talk with us or talk with me if I do lives. So you can join that if you want to, so you can be interactive. I will mention that again. The Torn more. The link is in the show notes. Our Discord, Lux's new show again, Lux Rising. The show notes will be in there for that as well, and my show. So yeah, I guess that's the end of another one. Very interesting, and it's just weird how it's like, what is this, the same shit all over again?
Yeah.
Like I was saying to somebody yesterday, I'm like, this is like fucking World War II. We supposedly went and fought the Nazis, and then we bring them back over here, and now we're like fucking promoting them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how the fuck did we get all the way around here now?
Right.
Some fucking crazy shit.
I know, man. Like we said, even having them on Fox News and stuff like that's. You would think that they would vet that information first. Like if they really are these bad guys, and it's like, how the hell did they get on Fox News?
Well, I think some people. Well, I mean, Fox News. I mean, is it just slightly a little bit better than the other ones anyway? I still think they're not much better than other news stations. I hate to say.
No, I'm just saying that out of all the footage that they have from Ukraine, they're using that one.
Use that. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, come on.
I have some of the best technology to use for video surveillance.
Exactly, dude. Yeah.
So that's the end of another Occult Rejects. So I hope you all liked it, and until the next one, everybody be well.